I am so open. That sounds great.
Any questions for me?
So I'm so excited that we're gonna meditate together. Like, wow. I guess I don't, so I always listen whenever I first, you know, tell somebody that I'm interested or agree or however this happened. I guess it was Pod Match. That's the only thing
Yeah.
I'm on. And like get a feel and check out the socials. But I didn't do my due diligence. I've been, it's just been crazy. I'm like, but I did look on your social media this morning and I was like, oh yeah, I remember how lovely she is. So I did not remember that about your podcast shows.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I am excited about this.
Yeah, I started implementing it because it's like we have the talk, yet everybody's telling you to do something rather than like let's do it all together. So I want to be one that walks the walk, not just talking about what there is. It's really inviting people into doing that shift so that we can create that change. Because we want change in the world, but we're always like, they need to and they need to. And it's like, well, the only change in the world is yourself. So you have to show up with that change. So I'm really just demonstrating that in every possible way. And I know sometimes it's uncomfortable for myself because I know some people aren't into meditation or it's threatening to them and it's uncomfortable. Yet I understand the medicine that's in that if you start to engage little by little, even if it's a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds of really engaging to come back into your body.
Oh,
Welcome to the Lift Oneself podcast, where we break mental health stigmas through conversations. I'm your host, Nat Nat, and we dive into topics about trauma and how it impacts the nervous system. Yet we don't just leave you there. We share insights and tools of self-care, meditation, and growth that help you be curious about your own biology. Your presence matters. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. Help our community grow. Let's get into this. Oh, and please remember to be kind to yourself.
Welcome to the Lift Oneself podcast, Sarah. I am so pleasantly, enjoyably thankful you're here in our little bit of a frazzle together this morning. Yet, welcome to the podcast.
thank you so much.
Will you join me in a meditation so that we can ground ourselves in our breath?
That sounds delicious.
And for the listeners, as you always hear me say, if you're doing anything that requires your visual, keep your eyes open. I want you to be safe as well as everybody else. Yet the other prompts you're able to follow. However, caution if you're getting too relaxed, then, skip over to the conversation, yet you can come back to do the meditation when you're in a space where you can allow that relaxation and dropping into your body. It's always about safety. So always remember that. Yet you can always take time for these mindful moments to ground yourself in your breath. So, Sarah, I'll ask you to get comfortable and you're going to gently close your eyes and you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose. And you're going to bring your awareness to watching your breath go in and out through your nose. You're not going to try and control your breath. You're just going to keep your awareness on watching your breath go in and out and become aware of its rhythm. There may be some sensations or feelings coming up in the body. Let them come up. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Be with your breath. Drop into your body. Continue staying with your breath. Continue staying with your breath. Now, Sarah, in your mind, I'm going to ask you to create an intention you want to bring forth in this conversation and for the listeners and for ourselves. And when you've created that intention, I'm going to ask you to release it in your mind, allowing it to drop down into your nervous system, down your neck, through your throat, down into your chest, filling your heart, filling your lungs, down into your abdomen, down into your stomach, into your life force. Still staying with the breath, dropping deeper into the body, allowing that intention to surround your energy field. Continue staying with your breath. Now, at your own time and at your own pace, you're going to gently open your eyes while staying with your breath. How's your heart doing?
Heart is so open. That brought up some emotion, some that, that space between crying and bliss. I sometimes get that in meditation, and I was kind of on the brink of that expansive feeling.
Yeah, it's a beautiful feeling. When how I describe it is that our defense mechanisms of the nervous system have surrendered, and you can get into that vulnerability, down into the bliss of the oneness. And so and then the tears come up because I think it's, you're coming back into your worth, your existence, and it can feel overwhelming of a washing of, we think it might be sadness, but really it's a gratitude of overwhelm and appreciation. And so many different emotions come up because we're multidimensional. And then once we can go in that, it's like, oh, we're home. But we forget that it's always here. It's just the defense mechanisms of being human have us traverse this worldly plane, which you do these practices to remind yourself you're part of the two.
So beautifully put.
Can you let the listeners know who Sarah is?
I'm a lesbian heartbreak resilience coach. It's quite a mouthful. And I'm on a mission to teach 28 million humans to meditate, starting in the queer community. And I've experienced a lot of trauma in my life, and I've done a lot of healing and a lot of forgiveness. And I'm really grateful for the trauma that I've experienced and that I've had the ability to learn through, grow through, and help others. Because heartbreak is a symptom of childhood conditioning, childhood trauma, attachment styles, because we're in a meditative state between 0 and 7. So I use meditation practices, breath work, awareness, journaling, a lot of other very natural practices to allow people to stop the downward spiral and learn to spin within so that they can heal heartbreak and take these practices into other areas of their lives.
Love it. You mentioned that you're thankful for the trauma. I'm sure some of the listeners may not understand that and be like, what the heck is this woman talking about? I understand the language, yet could you explain it from your point of view, why you frame it that way?
Pain is love. People who are born without the ability to feel pain die very quickly. Pain is a signal. Emotional pain, literal pain, it's a signal from the body letting us know a place that needs attention, a place that needs extra care. And they say smooth seas do not make for strong sailors. When we go to the gym or, do a walk on the beach, it rips our muscles open so that they can repair and be stronger. It is only through challenges that we grow. It's so interesting because after the development of the prefrontal cortex, it's like we don't want to have challenges. But there's all these game shows and reality shows where they have challenges, and that's where the work is. So I'm not saying that I wish what has happened for me, not to me, but what's happened for me on anybody, because it's not like it's been beautiful or easy, but the release of it is easy after we learn how to relax through the body, harness the breath, and look at life through a perspective, an objective lens instead of the subjective lens, because everything's neutral. Everything. But our subconscious has us programmed with our core wounds, our disempowering beliefs, and we also are trying to get our needs met all the time. So our subconscious has filters, and so we're trying to see the world objectively, but we literally can't. So it's that zooming out and taking the 30,000 foot view. They've done studies where the vacations that people remember the most are the ones where they booked a beach vacation for 5 days and it rained every single day, and they laugh about it years later. It's the one where, they remember those things where the car broke down and they had to call the tow truck and they were up until midnight, and they laugh about it later. And so it's about that. I call it grip without the grit, so that you can kind of hold things lightly and be in flow. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's definitely an iterative day by day practice to choose to just laugh and, oh, look at this problem I get to solve, instead of being frustrated and flustered and stressed out, and allowing our energy to permeate into other people's spheres.
Beautifully said. I'm sure you weren't always in this space. So what did it look like? What did it look like? How did you get to begin this path of healing and shifting your perception?
I used to very proudly be a realist, somebody who saw things very objectively, realistically, but I was very negative. And I had a primary caregiver, not my mom or my dad, but another primary caregiver who was and is a very negative person. And I took on a lot of her traits. And when I was 18, I went to this amazing summer camp for a week. It's called Eagle U in like quotations, like Eagle University. And it really taught me a lot of positive thinking, kind of like a boot camp self-help week for teenagers. And that's when I started my journey. But reading a lot of books and yoga and starting meditation, I didn't have a regular practice for several years. It was when I started practicing regularly at the age of 35 that everything I had been reading started to really sink in, because I was getting into that subconscious state and being able to observe my thoughts, observe my breath, observe my life, and see some of these patterns that weren't serving me anymore. So it's definitely been a journey, as we all have, right?
Exactly. So you mentioned the negativity. Do you have a definition of what that really is? The negativity in people.
Fantastic question. Anything that allows our nervous system, the sympathetic aspect of our nervous system, to hijack our thoughts and take us out of this ability to utilize our prefrontal cortex, where we have logic, and go into the limbic brain, where we are in subconscious mode and we are unable to hear positive tones. We're very defensive. So I think that life is on a spectrum, but we see the world in contrast, obviously. There's day and night. There's this non-binary world of the computers, and people want us to be female or male or gay or straight, and things are on a spectrum. So the range of emotions that we can experience are like musical notes. It's not like you all of a sudden go from a negative mindset to joy. You've got to go up that David Hawkins map of consciousness you may be familiar with.
Yeah.
But Deepak Chopra says somebody could pay me a compliment and I could choose to get offended.
Mhm.
Somebody could try to offend me and I could choose to see it as a compliment. So it's all perspective and how it's actually affecting our nervous system.
It's how I explain it in a simple term. Our nervous system has one function: don't die. And it's
Mhm.
built out of negative bias to always look for the protection.
Mhm.
And so, there's things in the world, there's talking about no fear and don't fear, where you need healthy fear for your nervous system, because if not, you wouldn't be able to survive in this world. And if you want to get back connected into your intuition, intuition is going to activate fear, because curiosity is going to bring you into the unknown and uncertainty. It's learning to ride that fear.
I've never heard it put that way. Intuition activates fear because it brings you into the unknown.
And uncertainty. And it's going to have you face your belief systems and some of the definitions of your core values and what you think you are. And it's going to bring you somewhere outside of that. So, of course, it's going to activate fear, because the defense mechanisms are always there to protect you. Even when somebody's being negative, it's in their defense mechanisms of trying to protect. And we can get very polar with it, where it's like, wait, do we understand the nervous system's language? And, at times when people are doing their healing, myself included, there can be this berating, or that I didn't honor myself, or I didn't do this, rather than taking a moment to see, well, what was this pattern and what was my nervous system trying to protect me from? And most times the basic thing is feeling our authentic emotions. We don't know how to feel our authentic emotions. We feel our secondary emotions. We also don't know how to acknowledge fear and play with it.
Mm, that's brilliant. I totally agree with you. I've learned throughout my life by trial and error that the things that I am most averse to are the things I need to run toward. So now I'm like, oh, I'm scared of that. I'm going to go do it because I have resisted it. And then I finally lean into it. And I'm like, this is amazing. Why was I so afraid of this? Now, I mean, obviously you don't want to do dangerous things, but we aren't, as fighting tigers or warding off tribes people. By and large, it's emotional stress and emotional fear that we're primarily dealing with on a day in and day out basis.
And we're being bombarded with so much of it to be in fear. So any kind of marketing and news outlets, even the social media, is always priming our nervous system to be hypervigilant and in fear. And when you're in fear, it can be very challenging to make decisions for yourself. So you're seeking solutions from the outside. And then as soon as somebody says, oh, we have the solution, you can cling to it, because you may not have created the tools to check within yourself, to take that pause, to interrupt.
Totally agree with you. It's always nice to have a good chin wag with somebody.
Going profound. It's where I hear in the meditation circles and spirituality, it becomes this part where people aren't being able to relate to themselves. And it's that nervous system piece. It's really recognizing, like, everything, if you're going to say everything's working for you, it's really understanding your nervous system also and the defense mechanisms, and a part where, what have you created within? How have you identified yourself? What emotions have you suppressed that you are not allowing yourself to feel? And the biggest thing I'm always advocating for is befriend anger, befriend rage, befriend fear.
Totally agree with you. Befriending it all and just letting go and being in flow and recognizing that we are safe, because our nervous system and our past conditioning is trying to keep us safe. Like you say, don't die. And just befriending those. It's like, I heard it described one time that emotions are like an old friend, and you let them in and you ask them what their story is. And if an old friend came over and said, I need help, can you listen to me? We wouldn't say, oh yeah, come on in, but let me watch some reality television first. Let me drink some alcohol first. Let me dissociate by scrolling first, and then I'll listen to you with your problem. these emotions are our child selves that are coming to us saying, I need your help. I've been storing this in my subconscious for decades. Can you please help me?
In your personal life, how do you process anger?
That is a great question. I was actually talking to my girlfriend about that last night. I have a power technique that I've used that I teach clients. And of course, each letter is an acronym, POWER, but I don't have time to explain it here. But basically, I try to get behind the emotion. I really kind of go like up and above myself so that I can see myself not in the moment and get curious, like, oh, look, she's getting angry. What could this be a sign of? And come at it with some curiosity and some compassion for that little baby self who, because I'm sure you've heard that anger is really a secondary emotion.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sign of some sort of hurt, either fear or sadness, or maybe injustice. Anger can be in there because of injustice.
Even fear. It's the bodyguard.
Right. Yeah. Fear or sadness. Yeah, exactly. But
Because it goes anger, sadness, fear.
yes. Yes. Well, and I think that anger is really not a primary emotion. Anger, sadness, fear, and joy, they say, or desire. Those are like the basic five.
But I see anger as the bodyguard because it's a defense and you're trying to, if you haven't been able to feel that emotion, it's coming up.
Uh-huh. I see what you're saying. Literally a bodyguard.
Comes up because you haven't been able to engage with those authentic emotions. Like when people talk about shame and guilt being garbage and not to feel them, it's like, no, face them. What's underneath them that's activating the shame?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't face things. We don't feel them. We don't sit in the feeling of what does this actually feel like to allow our body to have expression. Do you use techniques to express the anger?
Very simply, I start with, I am feeling blank. And I always talk about myself. Like I try to find the core wound, what it's related to. I'm feeling this, boil it down to the emotion. This is a core wound of mine, and this is what I need. And a lot of times I will just go straight into, if I can, if it's like a text or an email, I'll just go straight into a meditative state so that I can look at those things. But if I'm in front of a person, I have an affirmation that I repeat to myself pretty often about defensiveness and how I don't need to defend because that makes me a victim. It makes me more powerless and victimizes me more. And so I say, we have different opinions. Or I might say, give me a moment so that I don't react. Instead, I can go inside and choose to respond. And I automatically start breathing from the belly. That's because we start breathing from the chest. And so that's like one of the first things.
Yeah. Are there other techniques of expressing that you use with anger? Like, do you ever yell in a pillow? Do you go to smash rooms?
I have. I tend toward dancing.
Yeah.
Clients who successfully complete my programs get a dance button, a 30-second dance button. Because animals in the wild, you probably already know, when they've escaped a predator, they shake. Mm-hmm. Like a dog, they shake, and we just need to get it out of our body in some way. And I have before. There's a gentleman who does this create meditation, and he has a screaming in the pillow section of the create meditation. And I've definitely done like yelling and screaming in my car before if I need to, like if I'm at, or crying, because it's a good one.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do an oral journal where I just am like, I'm so mad, and I don't even, just so that I can get it out and I don't have to tell that person.
Yeah.
but I can process it. And I don't even have to call my best friend or, like I can just process it no matter where I am, no matter what they're doing.
Yeah.
How about you?
Oh, I use all of those methods, and times it's walking, screaming in the pillow, banging on the steering wheel, just to recognize that it's because when anger comes up, it's a very overwhelming sensation, and there's a chemical dump that came in. And so, and if you have grief in your body also, it gets activated with that also. And grief is a very overwhelming sensation to feel because there's a loss. So it's finding these expressions, like you said, like dancing is a big thing that I use with my clients or anybody that's willing to listen, because there's a somatic release that the body needs to express. And we tend to want to intellectualize and rationalize things, where it's like we could learn from the temper tantrums that some children are using to just release it. Yet
Mm,
we want it to look so much more mature, where, yeah, okay, we have the ability in certain instances, yet life is impermanent and it's always hitting you. So to not allow that body to release somatically stores these energies in your body. And then they build up and build up. And then all of a sudden they get let loose in an experience where you're like, what, this isn't that big. Like, why am I reacting or feeling or going through all of this? And again, it's, well, did you allow yourself to have some expression and feel it without rationalizing and intellectualizing it? Yes, in the moment, like you expressed, if I'm in a business meeting or with somebody, I have to put on this mask and interact in that way. Yet afterwards, did you take some time to check in? Is that feeling still there? Did you hear all of the messaging and the release in there? Because possibly there might be some boundary work you need to work on. You might be a little too passive with people, and you got to start now putting boundary work for yourself, not for them. You're getting agitated with them when really it's yourself, because you're allowing certain things to happen, or you're putting yourself in spaces that don't serve you anymore.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's important to do that process and feel out and relate to yourself. Like the journey is going to be messy. Yet we would like it all polished and perfected because that's what the world tells you to look like. And it's like, well, real healing, it's going to be messy. And like I say to people, the practices are simple, yet they're not easy to apply.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite lines. It's really simple. Most things that are simple are not easy.
Oh, and we like to complicate things. The
Yeah.
world has complicated a lot of things that are not complicated, yet you get lost in that little trail rather than what is the simple thing. And to feel our emotions, if you've not ever even had that space when you were young to co-regulate with somebody, to co-regulate with yourself, you're not able to do it. So you need to find somebody that has their nervous system that's regulated to co-regulate and let these emotions pass through. And if you can get into a profound meditation to start regulating your nervous system, then all that stuff starts passing through somatically. And that is its own warrior work, to be in a meditation practice and letting these things just come out. And when I'm like hearing people when they're like, oh, I shaked or I was crying or different things, I'm like, oh, you had the somatic releases. Because every
Yeah.
meditation is different. You're meeting yourself in all different ways.
Mhm. Yeah. Agreed.
I'm going to bring you into a reflective question.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to bring your awareness right now and to go back to your 18-year-old self. And you
Oh,
have,
goodness.
yeah, you have 3 words to tell your 18-year-old self to carry you to the journey to right now. What would those 3 words be?
That's funny. I thought about this the other day and I had a response and I know exactly what it is, but let me revisit it just to make sure that that's still it. It's the same. Start meditating now.
It's our medicine. It's,
Say it again.
it's our medicine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One of my favorite hashtags. The meditation is medicine.
Because we've been lured on to seek on the outside, and once you understand your nervous system is looking for safety, then it's like, I am the safety. I am to create that in my body. I am to trust myself. That's the biggest part of the healing, is coming back into trusting yourself. Because when you recognize, oh, I created some of this because I tolerated or I made some choices that put me into situations, yet it's recognizing, wait, it was all in a method of protection. That's why you need radical compassion. Because once you become aware of things that you have done in some of the storyline, that is heartbreaking and can bring up a whole bunch of rage and anger towards yourself. And it's like, wait, context. Because I think context is missing a lot of times, that we're, like you said, contrast, black and white. Where's the context? Where's the storyline? Not just the bite size. Where's the story of why these decisions were made, to better understand why the nervous system created these protections and defense mechanisms?
Yeah. I love that you're doing the work and putting all this information out for people. It's like you said, it's simple, but there are so many different entry points. And then it just takes time. It's not easy to continue to do the work day in and day out. Listen, I see it with my clients. They want to heal their heartbreak, but they don't realize that this is life work. And I don't know, I haven't done the numbers, but I'd say about 20 to 25% don't complete an individual program or a group because it gets too hard and they get scared. And people, as you know, would rather the painful familiar than the painful unfamiliar, even though there is liberation on the other side of that pain.
Yeah. Understanding the capacity of what you can experience can feel very threatening, especially if you felt significant pain in your life. You're like, I don't want that anymore. So you're going to stay with what is familiar. Are you willing to share what your intention was at the beginning in the meditation?
I'm on a mission to heal 28 million people. And I just felt that expansion, that world change. Because I believe that if people would stop living in the 3D world, 3D is deny, distract, dissociate, and learn to spin within, like we're talking about, that it would change everything. And so if 28 million, because when one person starts doing these practices, like we're talking about, it's a ripple effect for everyone in their life. And 28 is a significant number to me. And it's kind of like, they call it your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal. Sounds crazy to try to take something like that on. And of course, I'm very aware that I need to train coaches to do what I do. And there's a long line of people who are past clients who are ready to be to be clients of my training program. So I'm just listening to when and how we can do that. This is such deep, profound work that starts with a somewhat simple, but it's a really profound wound of heartbreak and heartache, which most people experience at some point in their lives in some way. And I believe that our queer hearts break harder. I think that queer people, people of the LGBTQIA rainbow alphabet community suffer disproportionately because we're either heartbroken when we're in the closet or we have to come out of the closet. And that's a heartbreak in of itself. And it's not a one and done thing. I mean, I'm coming out of the closet all the time. I got squarely rejected by somebody at the park the other day who my daughter was playing with her daughter. And it was clear that she was threatened by me. She assumed that I was dating men and said something about it. And I said, well, no, I'm gay. And she literally walked away from me, stopped talking to me and just walked away, called her daughter. And that's the first time that's happened to me in a long time. But these traumas that we experience, microaggressions, and then as queer women specifically, let me just say, people that have more estrogen, whether you're non-binary or a trans woman, we're very inclusive. in my company, people who have more estrogen are more prone to nesting than men are. They're more seed spreaders, just biologically. And so when you get two female presenting people together, there's more of a tendency for nesting, and then women make less on the dollar than men. So when the breakup happens, their financial state is much more dire than two gay men. Gay women are twice as likely to get married and twice as likely to get divorced. And oftentimes they call it a U-Haul situation, that women tend to like nest and move in together very quickly. And sometimes one woman ends up essentially homeless and couch surfing because she's like sold all her things and moved across the country, or sold all her things and moved in with the girlfriend or the wife. And then, I mean, I know this firsthand. It pretty much happened to me. I wasn't homeless, but it does put you in a bind. And it's just such a stressful situation. And it's a symptom of attachment styles that are formed early on in life and that we repeat because it's what we know. It's what the subconscious is doing to keep us safe. If we had a narcissistic parent, we'll attract a narcissistic partner. And be sure, I am not into finger pointing and name calling, because that leaves us powerless. And I'm all about reviving that power and finding that power within so that we can do this big work with ourselves. And, later on in life, we can take these practices and continue the work day by day.
And I just want to hold space for that, because I'm sure many listeners hear themselves in that story and feel validated that, oh, wait, somebody's speaking for the depth of the vulnerability of the way that I have to walk in this earth, and the criticism, the judgment, the separation. And when you choose yourself, then there's some people that are going to disconnect from you. And a lot of times that's family members. And that is very heartbreaking. And it's very disorientating that there has to be a choice. Like, why can I not just be myself and feel the connection and love? And so that creates its own wound on itself. And it's not in people's minds that, oh, I'm not being treated a certain way. Yeah, you are feeling it and you are experiencing it, because in a society where religion has dominated a lot about heterosexual and how love is supposed to present in humans, that hits a belief system. And if you hit somebody's belief system, the pit bull comes out. And until they dismantle that belief system, they don't even realize the fear and the hatred that they're projecting, because they believe it's in a method of protection. So I just am thankful that you created that and shared some of your own experience, so that the listener listening that is feeling that heartbreak can feel that they aren't alone. So now I know that listener is like, okay, so where can I find Sarah? Could you let them know where they can find you?
Absolutely. I'm everywhere at Sarah Webb Says, SarawebBsays. So that's Sarah with no H, Webb with two B's, and like the present tense of said, but says.com, and on YouTube and on Instagram. And I have a LinkedIn and all those. I also run an online community for those people who are interested, women and non-binary humans. I run a community called Queer Hearts Break Harder. As of today, there are about 2,000 people in it. It's a private Facebook group, and we do free Zooms on Fridays. Well, as of the recording of this show, we're doing free Zooms on Fridays because a lot of people who are heartbroken need some community on Friday nights. And I teach a lot of the concepts that we've covered today at a high level, like stress management and self-care and subconscious reprogramming and releasing childhood trauma, things like that. And then, I run group programs. I also coach one-on-one, and starting a podcast in probably another year. I'm interviewing, and I want to have all the episodes kind of summed up, tied together before I release it. So lots of opportunities to get in the system of healing our queer family from the inside out, right? That's where it begins. It's on the inside.
Beautiful. Is there something that you want to leave the listeners?
Pay attention to your breath. It's our life force energy. We can survive for weeks without food, days without water, but only a few minutes without our breath. And it's a really good barometer for your emotional state. And it's also a tool that we can use to change our emotional state. Breath work shifts energy. It moves energy when leveraged correctly.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This has been a delight. I appreciate when I can do a deep dive and, share experiences, share different modalities and experiences. And I want to thank you for doing the alchemy of taking those impurities and turning them into gold, and not just only keeping it for yourself, you're sharing it out in the world. So thank you so much for the work and the light that you're bringing out in the world.
Thank you. This is a mirror moment. I see so much synergy here, and I am so grateful for this opportunity, for this conversation, even if it weren't public. This has filled my soul today. I'm super grateful for the work that you're doing on this plane. Thank you so much, beautiful soul.
Thank you. Remember to be kind to yourself.
Hey, you made it all the way here. I appreciate you and your time. If you found value in this conversation, please share it out. If there was somebody that popped into your mind, take action and share it out with them. It possibly may not be them that will benefit. It's that they know somebody that will benefit from listening to this conversation. So please take action and share out the podcast. You can find us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok under Lift Oneself. And if you want to inquire about the work that I do and the services that I provide to people, come over on my website, come into a discovery call, liftoneself.com. Until next time, please remember to be kind and gentle with yourself. You matter.